Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I think we are going to give it maybe a minute or just another minute or so and see if any more people show up before we get started. But welcome to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you don't just look at my face. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, it's 1:01 Central Time, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our tutorial on how to use some of the resources that we have available here on the CHC website. I think some of you have tuned in before, and we may have an item or two that are new for everyone, and then some will be a repeat. So first, I thought we would start off with something that is really new to everyone because we just posted it earlier this week. And if you go to our homepage and go over here to Museum and go below Galleries, we have launched a virtual tour. So I will open a link in a new tab and show you our virtual tour. It's pretty cool. There's still little things we are tweaking. So some things that maybe aren't the most legible, and we're going in and having to fine tune the tour for that purpose. That you just load it onto your computer. It takes just a second because it's a big file, and you have the option to view it as a walkthrough and clicking yourself forward, or you have the option to view the floor plan and see it from above. I personally like the floor plan view. Of course, I know the space, so it helps me to be able to jump right to the exhibit that I'm looking at. But when you do this, you can kind of click in anywhere you want on the various. So we'll just click over here and pull that up, and it actually pulls up the text panel, and you're able to click on it and zoom in so that you can read the text panel. Same thing over here. Every time you see one of these blue dots, you're able to click. And as you can see, if you just pull it up this way, the font is too small. So you click in on that. And these are the ones where I'm talking about we're going to have to go in and fine tune. That's still pretty small font. So what we're going to be doing is where you can pan in and make that font even a little bit larger. But on most of the text panels, you're going to be able to read just fine. It's only those large, what we call monoliths. So here's a good example. There's the wigwam. You can see this one when you click on it, it's very legible. So I encourage you to share this resource, the virtual tour, with anyone you can think of. It's something that we've made available for teachers. We've had 2 or 3 teachers from out of state who have come in the last few weeks, and they are needing to use something that's a little bit more specific for individual tribes than what they tend to get out of their textbooks. So if you have teachers in your life who really want to do a lesson that's more specific to the Potawatomi than just some of the Pan-Indian things that they're going to get out of a textbook, I strongly suggest teachers make use of the virtual tour. It's a lot of fun. So the next things that we're going to go through are our objects over here under resources. Now I will click in on these and show you examples, but we'll spend the most time down here with Mesadena, which is our genealogy system. So the allotments, again, I'm going to open in a new tab just because that's my personal preference. The allotment map is exactly what it sounds like. It is a map of our former reservation boundaries here in Oklahoma, at the time Indian Territory. And you are able to search by family over here on the left. Right now we have all of the pages, all of the filters turned on. And so you're able to see the 1887 allotments here in red, the 1872 allotments in blue, and all of the cemeteries in the former reservation. You can turn these off. So as you see here, these take the blue 1872 allotments away, or you could take the 1887 allotments away. You can turn them both off if you just really want to focus in on the cemeteries, If you want to search the cemetery, so here's the Tecumseh Cemetery, which is just outside of our facility here in Southern Shawnee, Northern Tecumseh, and it will give you the coordinates of where this is, address if we have it. We haven't loaded it here, but we do have the address for that. And then below it, the list of all the tribal members who are buried there. Now, this is us just seeking out this information. This is not coming from some master database that we've been keeping since we moved here in 1872. So if you have a family member that you know is in one of these cemeteries and they are not listed on this list, it's just because when we were sorting through the data, we missed one, or it wasn't certain to us if they were a tribal member, or so feel free to submit that to us. You can always contact us by the phone number up here or the email address that's on the contact us portion of the website. So if we have someone missing, please let us know, because we would like to get them listed as an individual who is in that cemetery, wherever it may be in the county. Okay, so another thing that you can do with these is, as I mentioned, I just turned back on our 2 filters here to show all of the allotments. And so you can click on one of these allotments. So we'll just click right here on one of the 1872 allotments. It was one that was allotted originally to Mary Bourbonnais. You see Mary Bourbonnais' tribal ID, her photograph, her family. Of course, we know that Mary Bourbonnais was originally an Anderson, but when this was allotted to her, her last name was Bourbonnais. Her birth and death dates, where she's buried, the year that this plot was allotted, the location. Of course, you also have the QR code down here that if you want to scan that with your cell phone, it will pull up the actual Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever device that you are using. It will pull up the map and it will give you directions on how to drive there. And you can also click more and learn more about this ancestry. It'll take you over to one of our other databases that I'm about to show you if you click on this and want to learn a little bit more about Mary Anderson Bourbonnais. But that's pretty generally how the allotment map application works. It's very straightforward. I have had some questions about whether or not we are going to create a map like this for the Kansas reservation and those allotments, and it is something we're working on. It's just those records are even more complicated and hard to track down and hard to get exact coordinates and things than the Indian Territory reservation was. So it's something we're working on. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Okay, so the next is our archives. And again, I'm going to open in a new tab. This is the collections that we have. These are sort of the official inner workings of the government documents. So agendas for legislative meetings are here, minutes and resolutions from legislative meetings are here. Judicial collections, our codes and things like that are all going to be in these official documents. We also have all of the old Haunicons. Now there are some that are missing, but that is because they are missing. You know, we don't have a record of it. They were from back in the 70s. Some have just sort of disappeared, and we are always looking for maybe that tribal member who has them tucked away in an attic somewhere. So if you have looked through your past Haunicons and you're one of those gems who saves all of the things and they're in good condition, and you notice that you have something that we don't have, please let us know, and we would love to get a scan of that. We have uploaded all of the ones that we have access to. And this is also where we have our family manuscripts collection. So I will click into that. And as you can see here, for all of the 49 founding families, we have collections of their manuscripts. So we'll just go to the Acton family because they are first. And this is what it'll look like. So as you can see, we have the general information about the collection here under the title Acton Family Manuscripts. And down here, you'll see that we have them broken down into categories. All of the documents related to allotments, census, family history, and genealogy. If you know what you're looking for and you're not just sort of perusing, you have the option to just open each one of these files and click through the PDF scans of these various documents, or you can click up here if you're looking for something specific and go through the finding aid. We have a description listed of every single document that is in this file. And as you can see, there are many documents. It's very long, but it can help you pinpoint what you're looking for, where it is in the collection, where it is in the order in each one of these folders, so that you can find exactly what it is you're looking for. So that can be very, very helpful. So I strongly, strongly suggest make use of the finding aid. It can be very helpful whenever you are trying to track down multiple items, or when you kind of have an idea of what it is you're looking for. You know you're looking for a birth certificate. You can scan through, and once this finding aid is open, you can also always click on your Control F on your keyboard, and it will pull up the search box, and you can search by keyword, and it will let you know whether we have documents related to that individual or that word in this folder. So the finding aid is going to be your best friend when you're doing research within the family manuscripts collection. And so that's the basics of archives. I'm going to close that window and go back over here. Encyclopedia. Again, it's very straightforward. We just had a wonderful, wonderful intern, a young Potawatomi student who's about to go off to grad school, who spent several weeks with us here working on encyclopedia entries. He has created around 50 new entries for us, and we are working on getting those uploaded now. So we have around 200 entries right now. Hopefully by the end of next week, when we get all of his uploaded, we will have around 250. And then we have yet another intern who is in and working on more entries. So this is a project that is never ending. It will continue to grow. If there are entries that you don't see in here that you would really love to have as an encyclopedia entry, we would welcome suggestions. So we haven't broke it down by people, places, events, objects, culture, and then also broken down by topic. So you can peruse however it makes the most sense to you. One of the great things about the browse by topic is that this is another resource that can be very helpful for teachers. We do have a few teachers who are wanting and working with our Department of Education to do lesson plans and curricula around the Trail of Death. Again, a lot of schools have a requirement that teachers address certain topics to meet their state standards, and they can go with sort of a pan-Indian approach, or teachers who so choose can seek out more information to craft their lesson plans so that they're a little more specific but still meet the state standards. And one of the ways we have done that is down here in the browse by topic. You can click on Trail of Death, and very, very soon, I'm thinking next week, we should have lesson plan uploaded that has a few activities broken down by age group. For Oklahoma, I believe it's 3rd grade and 8th grade, where this is part of the state standard. So we have some suggestions for teachers to craft their lesson plan for those age groups. But here we also have numerous entries that are related back to the Trail of Death. So if you have older students who you want to do research, if you yourself are just wanting to do research, this is just a really great resource. So again, just like I was mentioning a moment ago, if you as a user notice not only entries that are not in there, that would be helpful, but if you can think of topics where there will be a cluster of entries that are all related to the same topic that you think would be really helpful, please reach out to us. We're always interested in hearing the thoughts and opinions and the areas of interest of our tribal citizens, and we want to cater to you, and we want to make sure that you have the information that you need, not only for yourself, but if you have little ones or grandchildren who are in school and you really want this as a resource for their teacher, please let us know. Okay, so we have done the first 3. The next is our family manuscripts, and I will click over on that one. So this is what the home page of our family manuscripts collection looks like. Eventually, and I'll get more into this here in a moment, eventually hopefully this database will go away, because all of the information in this database will eventually be exported over into Mesadena, so that they would just become a redundant system, and Mesadena is much easier to navigate. And so we will slowly make sure all that information's over, and then hopefully phase this one out in the next year or two. It's just a process of moving hundreds of thousands of documents and making sure that they are linked up to and inserted into the right profiles. But these are very helpful for right now. These are the objects that were in, it's manuscripts, two-dimensional objects, so photos, letters, government documents, things like that, that were collected about the tribe and tribal citizens from 1700 to 2006. We moved to a new system in 2006. So we didn't keep adding stuff to this older system. This is sort of what we refer to as a legacy system, which means nothing new is added to it. We've just taken all of those objects and sort of put a chronological border on each side of it and broken it down, processed it, linked documents that are in this collection to individual tribal citizens, but we don't keep adding more to it. If there's more things that have come in, if we get a new picture of Mary Bourbonnais that we never had before, it wouldn't go into this system, it would go into Mesadena, our new system. And all of her stuff will eventually be merged over there. So it's not like people are not having new objects added to their profile, it's just not being added in this legacy system. So the way this is used is that you can go over here to the drop down and search by family. We'll just go with Anderson. And as you can see, you have it broken down by allotments, census, genealogy, government, history, miscellaneous, and then you start getting into individual tribal members. I will pull up, I think I've already pulled this one up, yes. So I went to John Anderson Sr., and I already pulled it up because there's so many files in here. It takes a minute. I didn't want you all sitting here watching the little wheel spin. So I went ahead and clicked on this earlier and opened his profile. So when I clicked on John Anderson Sr., this is this little window with all these documents popped up. And as you can see, it is everything from his heirship interests to land sales letters that involve him. You keep scrolling, you're still dealing with land issues. Still dealing with land issues. Now you're getting into some handwritten blood degree charts and people writing out the family history. So there's all kinds of information in these files. It can be very, very helpful. Some of the objects, as you can see here, are handwritten. Some of our ancestors had better handwriting than others. I feel sorry for my future ancestors. I have a little bit of a slanty, hard to read handwriting. If we had an old Hounicon article that had the name of one of these individuals in it, we put that page in here. So it's a little bit of everything. Again, there's the old Bourbonnais cabin back in the day. It's just a mixed bag of what's available here in the family manuscripts. So that's the basics of how it works. Okay, we're going to go back up here. So far, we have done the top 4. I'm going to skip Mesadena because it takes the longest, so I'm going to do it last. We'll go to our veterans database. This is somewhat new. We are still working on this. This one has a little bit of information that's wonky. We're sorting it out in the back end. It's more of a cleaning up the metadata in the program than it is that we don't have data. It's more on the technical end. So I'm sure Nathan or John could help explain that more, but if you want, but it is truly more that the way the data was entered at first, it was all entered in sort of one large block, where the way it should have been entered programming wise was breaking it out so that you can see and differentiate the data from each other. So it's just a bit of a process, and we are working through it, and it will be finished this summer for certain. So, but it's pretty straightforward as well. You can search for veterans. Now, we don't have every veteran because the Department of Defense is not giving us this data about our tribal members. This is data that has to be submitted by tribal citizens. So if you have served in the armed forces and you haven't given us your information, it won't be in here. If you have a loved one who's walked on that served in the armed forces in the past and no one in the family has ever given us their information, it won't be in here. So this is something we are always soliciting information for people to get their ancestors' name and what information they know about them. So branch of service, if they served in any conflicts, image, their DD-214, which is your discharge papers. We're looking for always looking for that information. So, and it's something that people, it kind of trickles in. Sometimes people will know the name of an ancestor and the branch of service, but they won't have access to their DD-214, or they don't have a photograph, or so we have sort of partial information on a lot of tribal citizens, and we're always looking to sort of flush that out. So you can search by name here at the bottom, and it'll begin with last name, or you can search by family, by branch of service, the wars that they fought in, or you can do a general search button. And then if you have information for us, so if you have a loved one who served and you don't see them in here, go to this submit button, and it will pull up where you can upload this information and send us what you have on your ancestors. So please think about looking through the family tree and seeing who's missing, who you have information on. Like I said, ideally we want the full set of information on all of these individuals, but we would rather have a record, a partial record, than no record at all. So even if you don't have that individual's DD-214, it would be good for you to let us know that they did serve. This, this is the information that we have on them, and you can request the DD-214, the discharge papers, for people who have passed on. There's a bit of a process, and we can talk you through that. But we're always just trying to seek out more information. So this is a critical database for us. We really do care about preserving the history and legacy of our veterans. So please, please, please think about helping us with that. Okay, we're gonna go back to the home page. This is us just bragging a little bit. We've won some awards. We just received 3 more awards that are very recent. So this is us just bragging a little bit. We're proud of ourselves. We've done a lot of hard work on the museum, and we just want you all to know that we're working as hard as we can, and that the state of Oklahoma is recognizing that. So we're pretty proud of it. Okay, so now we're going to get to the reason most of you are probably here, which is Mesadena, our genealogy database. So when you go to, I am already logged in as a fake profile, but when you log on as a user, you'll go over here to resources, you'll click on Mesadena, and the first thing it's going to do is take you to the portal homepage. Well, it will be this black page, and it's the same place, the same landing page where you go to when you applied for CARES money, if you are a student or have a student in your life where they've gone to apply for scholarship money, if you've ever applied for housing assistance, it's there, and you'll see a little bucket that has Mesadena genealogy, and you'll click on that. It'll have you enter your information. So you are registering as a tribal citizen. This is only available to tribal members and their spouses. And you'll go through a little bit of a prompt where we're asking for your tribal ID number, the family you belong to, those kinds of things. If it's your spouse, often it is the genealogist in the family happens to be the person married to a Potawatomi. So if you're the spouse, it will ask you that. Are you the tribal citizen, or are you a spouse? And then you'll move forward, and then this is what you will see. I am logged in right now under a fake account. This is our demo account. Our fake tribal citizen is this lady here, Mesadena, a demo. Mesadena means family in Potawatomi. So this is our answer. It's a little bit of a hybrid. It's sort of our answer to Ancestry.com and a lot of these other ancestry websites that are very popular that you may see advertised on television, and also a little bit of a social media element. So a little bit of maybe like Facebook, the ability to connect to people that you may not know or you may not have seen in quite a while through a certain platform. This answers both of those needs and both of those wants of our community. So the first thing that we want to talk about is how you, the tribal citizen using this system, build out your profile. So what you'll want to do, when you come here, you'll have Your default picture will be the picture that we have for your tribal ID. I can tell you all that if yours is like mine, it was taken at festival back in the 90s, and I was hot and sweaty, and my bangs were glued to my forehead because it was 105 degrees and I was not looking my best. So I changed out my profile picture. You can always do that by going up here and clicking on this element here, and it will take you it'll pop up a window that allows you to upload a new profile picture. But you can also go right over here to your full profile, click on the My Profile. And here's your full profile. So again, this is Mesadena. You can go up here to edit and it'll change your photo out. You can click here to edit and put your full name. You can assign your gender here. If you know your clan, you can put it in here. This is a Wolf Clan. If you have a Potawatomi name, you can add it here. Mesadena is obviously a big fan of summer outdoor grilling foods because her Potawatomi name is Hot Dog. You can, if you are filling this out and the birthday date circa is probably not going to be used for you. I hope you know your own birthday date, but this is something for when you're filling it out for another person, especially if you're filling it out for an older person who's maybe walked on. If you know they were born in 1918, but you're not sure on the day, that will help you there. So you put your birth date, all the information you have, and then you save. I'm just clicking out of it since she already has all of her information. And then you also have the ability beyond your vital statistics, so things that the county courthouse is going to have on all of us. You get to also build out your profile to let to just add things about who you are as a person, things you're proud of, things that build out and show your personality a little bit. So Mesadena has her birthday here. She was born in 1985, so she is a mature woman for being in her 30s. She got a bachelor's degree in 2001, so at 16 she was quite a little smarty. Then she graduated again. I don't know where she graduated from, also in 2001. Obviously this is just a profile that we built out for fun. And then she retired this year, so she's living her life in the fast lane and things are moving pretty quick for her. Those are life story events. So life story events are things that have happened in your life that have pretty much a specific date. You know, married this day, graduated from college this day, began new job this day. There are other objects and things that may not be as specifically tied to a date. It's just sort of something that happened in your life kind of in this era. So it could be, you know, if in your late 20s you became a world traveler, you could add that here. Things that maybe are not as critical to, these are the milestones in my life where I've sort of hit these prescribed events that people assume that people are going to go through as they move from childhood into adolescence, into adulthood, into elder years. You know, these are just sort of fun facts about yourself. So can be tied to a date, but don't have to be tied to a date. And you can add whatever you want in there. That's up to you. This is what you want to add to build out your profile. So if you want to look a little bit more into Mesadena, this is her profile, we can also go over here and see a little bit about Mesadena's family. So Mesadena is married to John. She has two parents, Helen and John. She doesn't have any siblings. She has one child. And then she maybe also has people in her life. And this is something that is specific to Mesadena that you're not going to see on other websites like Ancestry, because this is more taking into account native and indigenous ways of kinship. So we are holding true to the need that we have to be able to link back to our blood relations. That is, of course, how you are able to become a tribal citizen, is having a blood relative who was enrolled in the tribe or eligible to be enrolled in the tribe. So we are holding true to that, but we also understand that in our native ways, often there are people in our lives who have a very specific role to us, and they have a important relationship to us, even if it's not biological, even if it's not a relation by blood. So we have this kinship option down here where maybe you were adopted and you want to, and you know who your birth mother was or your birth father, and they are the tribal member, but you want to acknowledge that you were raised by this other family. Maybe they're native of another tribe, maybe they're non-native. You can have them on here as adopted brother, or if you just want to call him brother, or adopted mother, or you could just call her mother, or maybe you have an auntie, and in the in the native way, you have an auntie who's really important to you, and you can list that person. They won't be on your family tree, but they are acknowledged here so that you, when you choose to share your profile, people can see that these are people that are important to you. Okay, so this is the family breakout in this sort of profile format. You can also view the family tree down here, which will take you to a more traditional family tree breakdown. Now, we only have Mesadena listed going up, and we didn't list grandparents and all that. We didn't do multiple generations, but I'll show you one here in a moment that does have multiple generations. So as you can see, Mesadena here, it is a living parent. We didn't define it. Again, this is just sort of a mock-up. I'll show you John Anderson's here in a moment, where there is a lot more detail to the family tree. But this is just sort of a quick way to see what this profile looks like. So you can go back up here to dashboard. I'll take you back to the home from Mesadena. Okay, that's kind of your own profile. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about doing family research, and then at the end we'll talk about the sort of social media element and becoming friends with people and sharing profiles and all of those issues. So if you are just coming here to sort of do family history and genealogy research, and maybe just research on the tribe, you're not even necessarily looking for your own family, you're just really wanting to learn more about tribal members from the past, what we are going to do is have featured person over here. We've had John Anderson for a while because we are still in early access mode and working out bugs and getting alerts from people about little kinks and issues that they see arise. But we will change this out. We have a few people on deck who will just automatically be loaded in the future to be our featured person. But John Anderson has a really great profile and a really great family tree, so we keep highlighting him because he's really good to use in these demos. So we have a little blurb about him here, but if you want to learn more, you can click over to John Anderson's profile, and we have more detailed information on him. So we have his birth and death date. We have when he was born, the birth of his children, and he had many children. So as you see, if you click onto it, it actually gives you more detail, the birth of which child. And if we know where they were born, we will also add where they were born. He had many, many children. And then if his children passed away, we're going to list that and where they were buried. So what if we have information on them, we're going to add that here. Facts, again, we're just adding in these fun facts about people so that you can get a little bit of a feel for who they were as a person, what was important to them. You could go over here and see John Anderson's family tree. So he had a spouse. He was married to Elizabeth. His parents are listed here. He had siblings. He had quite a few children. You add the other 9 here. If we have photos for them, those will be uploaded. If we don't have photos, it will be the default profile you see here. And then this is where I said he has a more elaborate family tree than our fake Mesadena demo. So we start with John Anderson, and we're going back to his ancestors. So John Anderson, you see this little 1872 up here. That means that John Anderson was on the 1872 census. So our tribal citizenship is based around the various censuses that have been conducted by the federal government in our history. There was one that was conducted in the 1860s after we signed the Treaty of 1861. One of the things that was called for in that treaty was to do a census of who was going to be part of this nation. And so our ancestors had to be accounted for in that census. And then in 1872, once we had moved down to the new reservation here in Indian Territory, a new census was conducted. Again, this is you do a census because they are about to carve up and allot land. There's always going to be a census tied to land allotment because they have to make sure that you are a legitimate tribal member before they're going to give you a piece of property. So that's the purpose and the reason we have these multiple census opportunities is they're always tied back to those land allotments. So he was on the 1872 census. You can see that right there. We have his mom and dad listed, his grandparents through his mother, his grandparents through his grandmother, his great-grandparents, if you will, great-great-grandparents here, and then great-great-great-grandparent here. Now as you can see, we don't have images for a lot of these individuals, and that's just part of trying to work with genealogy from the past. Is, you know, cameras weren't available until the mid 19th century, and before that we did have some sketches done by George Winter, but it's very hard to get images or anything depicting what a lot of our ancestors look like, and it's frustrating, and we wish we had them, but sometimes we're lucky enough and sometimes we're not. So this is what you'll see on a lot of the profiles of the individuals, the tribal citizens that you're searching will look a lot like John Anderson's. So we'll go back to the dashboard again. Okay, so that's how John Anderson was just a great profile. If you know who you're looking for and you know what census they're on, you can also search by individual census. So here we have it clicked on all, which means if you know that it was someone who was on one of the older censuses, you can always click that. But if you don't know, you might want to do the default all. But as you can see here, you'll have these multiple censuses. Of course, there was not a land allotment in 1937, but this was after the Indian Reorganization Act was passed, and we were passing our tribal constitution and all of that. So this census was a result of, again, a federal policy that was then being implemented in Oklahoma. Tribal government was getting a sort of revamp of getting an official written constitution, and that's why a census was called for here in 1937. But these censuses are always sort of a because the federal government has mandated it for one reason or another, and they are very helpful tools for us. So you can always search here if you know that the individual is going to be on one of these censuses. We only have the profiles available for tribal citizens who have passed away 25 years ago or longer. So if you have a relative who passed away 10 years ago, their profile is not going to be available yet. That is just a privacy issue. For the federal government, and a lot of state governments, they tend to go with the 50-year mark. But because we have this lockdown to only tribal members, and we know people are using it for genealogy research, we've moved that to 25 years after they passed on. Again, you want to protect the privacy of your tribal citizens, and we don't feel like it's on us to make that available before that time period. People use information for all kinds of nefarious reasons these days, and we don't want someone trying to create a fake social security number or something and steal someone's identity. So that is the general framework that we work under. Something I wanted to mention, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, is as you're clicking through any of this stuff, if you notice something that doesn't look right, or maybe you click on a link and it didn't work for you and it didn't open up, you can always go down here and click this little wiggly bug right here in red in the bottom right hand corner. That is going to send an email directly to our programmers, and that's if you run into a bug. That's a bug report icon. If you have a general question, you can always go down here to the question mark, and that's not necessarily to report that something's wrong. It's to report, maybe ask a question that you don't understand or make a suggestion or whatever that may be. So that's how you search through past tribal citizens. Now, another element that we have is, as I mentioned, as you build out your profile, you may want to share that profile with a loved one, a relative, a cousin that lives out of state somewhere that you don't get to see very often. And you want to maybe start building up your family network. How you can do that is go up here to your profile. So right here it has Mesadena demo, but when you're logged in, it's going to have your name and your little profile picture up here. And you could go to friends and it will take you over. And as you can see here, if you have friends, it'll be listed here. If you have pending friend requests, they'll be over here. So I am friends with Mesadena a demo. I am her only friend, and she is my only friend. We're sad and lonely. But if you want to find the profile of your friends, that they will be listed here, and then you'll be able to click on them and view that individual's profile. So that's a fun way to link up your information with that of a loved one and a family member. And if you want to chat with those individuals, if I want to chat with me, I can go down here and I have myself, you can see that I'm listed here as the chat option. I clicked it twice and so it opened twice. And I can just type in a message. And share it with myself. And it's not going. So John and Nathan, I'm reporting a bug in real time. Normally, when there's not a bug, it'll just pop up here and you'll see the chat back and forth messages between myself and Mesadena. So not sure what's going on there. I'll let John and Nathan figure that out. Okay, I think I'm ready for questions. I don't think I've missed anything, but you all have been really good about letting me know when I do. So any questions? And Mary, what I've had Paige do in the past is it's hard for me to follow the Q&A in chat, so I've just had her read them off to me.
Okay, perfect. Alan Smith asked, where or to whom should we submit veteran info?
Okay. So yeah, if you have your veteran info, you can, Mary, do you mind putting Blake's email address in the chat? Also, while Mary's putting that in there, I will go back over here to the main. You can always go down to veterans and click on it and open, and you can click this submit button down here. So you can do it either way. You can either send it directly to our curator, Blake Norton, and Mary's going to put his info in the chat, or you can click the submit button and I'll just click on it. It will give you the option. So you can download the questionnaire. Here's the information that we need. We have a list over here of the people that we have partial records for. So if you want to scroll through these and see if you have a portrait of one of these individuals, ideally we would love their military portrait or something of them in their uniform. That is not always an option. So when that's not an option, we do take, I mean, we have a few photos of people, you know, when they're in their 70s and 80s, and it's just a profile picture that their daughter or the grandchild took with their cell phone and emailed it to us. So we'll take anything, but if you have one in dress uniform or fatigues or whatever your military uniform would be, that's ideal. If not, we will take whatever we can get.
We had a couple questions come into the chat. The first one was, where can we submit or send ancestor photos? So not just veteran photos, but just general ancestor photos.
Okay. I think I got that, Mary. You're kind of, it sounds a little bit fuzzy. So was the question where they can submit photos, not necessarily veteran photos, but just any photos?
Ancestor photos, yes.
Ancestor photos. Okay, so we are going to go back over to Mesadena. Click into it. Okay, and Nathan and John, what? I haven't done this in a hot minute.
So I can actually answer this one because I think the button is hidden right now.
Yeah, as I say, I'm not seeing the normal button.
Alan, so if you are, say, on an Ancestors profile, say if we were on John Anderson's profile,
I'm going to click on
and
it.
you wanted to submit some photos or some scans or something that you might have that are not present here in his records, at the top there will be a suggest a change button, but yeah, it is hidden right now. Doing some reconfiguring and honestly forgot about the lesson today. So that will be there. It's a big blue button. You would just click on that.
Normally right here, right, Nathan?
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's going to be right up at the top. So you would click that. It would ask what type of change it is, and if it's a document. We don't have a way where you can upload directly to Mesadena right now, mainly because we want to kind of vet what is sent in before publishing it. So if there are attachments to the change you're suggesting, there will be an email address, and I believe it will also go to Blake, where you would just say, this is what I want to add, and then that will go to Blake or Zarina. It'll be vetted, just make sure yes, this is good. We'll add it to the profile.
Yeah, and that's another difference between Ancestry.com and Mesadena is in Ancestry, if you want to claim that you are the great-great-grandchild of Chester A. Arthur, you can do so, and you can build out whatever profile and make whatever claims you want, and there's really no one there stopping you. What we do with this one is that we are vetting the information against our tribal records because because citizenship is tied to descendancy, it's really, really critical that we have accurate information. So building out your own profile about yourself, that's you share with us what you want about yourself. But when people start trying to add and say so-and-so was so-and-so's granddaughter or niece or whoever, we have spent decades working through a lot of those. The problem we run into is in the past, we have generations of our tribal citizens that they named everybody in the family the same handful of names. So there may be 6 or 7 Marys within a generation or two and 6 or 7 Johns in a generation or two, or there may have been an infant that was born with one name and they passed away before they were a year old, and then 2 years later another baby is born and they are named the same name. So we've spent a lot of time vetting and making sure a lot of this information is accurate. So things, rather than just being uploaded immediately, things come through our archives and research department so that they can just confirm before they upload things.
We have another question. Can you hear me?
Kind of.
Nathan, you want to take it?
Yeah. So Terry Courtney Miller says, I can't find my Meelo grandmother, daughter of Lewis. Terry, is that on the veterans application or on Mesadena? Because if it's on either one, it's a very real possibility that we just haven't added them in yet. Because I see in Mesadena, a Lewis Meelo comes up. It's spelled differently, but we don't have any information added to that profile yet. And I think that's because he falls into the 1937 census.
Okay. I saw a couple of her sisters. I saw Viola. So I saw some of her sisters there, but maybe it's just not complete.
Yeah, that's probably what's going on. Is we're still actively adding information to Mesadena, so we may just not have gotten to Lewis quite yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are actively working on 1937 right now. So we have all of 1872 and all of 1887. 1937 has many thousands more than those other two, and
Okay.
we're plugging along and we're almost there. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And I have one more other question on the cemetery. Is Sacred Heart Cemetery, is that included in the cemeteries on the site?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes,
think I have a great aunt buried there.
yes. And there are
Okay.
two, when you're clicking on it, there are two. Here, let me just go to it. Nathan, I'm going to want to talk to you about why this resource has dropped down.
Yeah, it updates separately. I'll have to do that one.
This is live troubleshooting on the, okay. So when we are working through down here, we're going to zoom in. Okay, so you're going to have multiple cemeteries right here stacked on top of each other. There are technically 3 different cemeteries within Sacred Heart. You have the cemetery where for the Abbey, where the sisters were buried. So these are all going to be clerical officials were buried in one little plot. And then you're going to have the official Sacred Heart, like the one that if you drive down there today, these are the headstones that are just out front of the church. And so it's going to be listed as Sacred Heart Cemetery. And then you're going to see this one right beside it that says Potawatomi Cemetery. If you drive out to Sacred Heart and you're coming at it from the south, and so Sacred Heart is on your left, and you're driving up the road, there will be just to the right a Potawatomi Cemetery. It has unmarked graves. We do have a list of those individuals. So I'll click on it here so that you can see the list of the individuals that we know are buried here. The reason there are 2 different cemeteries, people have asked this quite a bit. Most of the individuals who were buried over on the side by Sacred Heart, the actual church, so on the west side, were often individuals who were Catholic and were parishioners of Sacred Heart. There were others who were maybe not Catholic, and maybe they converted, but they, didn't go often, or maybe they weren't Catholic at all, or maybe they were, whatever that reason may be. They were often buried on the, back in the day, it was not across the road. There was not a road there. They were just buried a little bit farther away, because in Catholic burials, Catholics have to be buried in consecrated ground. Others do not have to be buried in consecrated ground. So there are the 2 cemeteries. It now looks like they are segregated because there's a road there, but you have to remember when these cemeteries were started, it was just a little cart path. So it didn't look as segregated back then. It wasn't meant to be that segregated. That's just how it worked out when they built the road through there. It separated these 2 cemeteries. So click on both of them if you know her name and you're looking for her. But if she's on the one that's referred to as Potawatomi Cemetery, some of them are Catholic and some of them were parishioners of Sacred Heart, but maybe their families were already buried over there. And remember, like when these burials were happening, it really wasn't that big of a separation. It was truly a small little cart path. And then now there's this road built there, and it makes it feel a lot more separated than it was meant to be. So
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then Heather Glasgow has asked, if I submit information for a family member that does not have internet access, do I need to submit contact information so they can approve or verify it?
It would be helpful. Yes, I would, because if we have questions, it's good for us to submit your own information and that of your family member. This happens quite a bit. There are people who maybe don't have internet access, or some of our elders that just don't feel super comfortable dealing with the technology. So we actually deal a lot with younger or relatives who live outside of the home who are helping a loved one get their information submitted. So yes, that would be the best way to go about that. Yeah.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. Is there anything that I've missed? Does anyone else have any other questions?
Okay. Well, we're always here as a resource. So if you have any questions, let me actually take you back up here and show you where you can reach out to us. You can always reach out to us right here at the top. I don't know if you can see my little cursor at the top. You have this red banner and there's a little envelope that will send an email that comes to me, and I then forward it on to the appropriate staff person. And that's just for general questions. If you have questions about how any of this works, if you're in Mesadena and you have questions, remember you can always click on that little question mark, or you can click on the little wiggly bug down at the bottom. Oh, there's my messages. You can either click on the question mark or the bug and reach out to our programmers. We're always here to answer any questions or hear suggestions. We are working for you and want to give you the best experience we can. So we're always happy to hear from you. Okay, and if no more questions, we'll bum up and I hope you all have a great rest of your week and weekend. Miigwech.